At my workplace, the fire department and paramedics had to respond because a kid confused a splash pad with a swimming pool. There's this decorative waterfall that flows into a shallow basin, only about 2 inches deep, where kids play around fountains and such. This kid decided to climb the waterfall, ignoring the numerous warning signs, and then dove off into the basin below. The water being just 2 inches deep didn't register with him. Thankfully, he landed flat on his face, avoiding paralysis, but he was knocked out cold. His mom heard the loud splat, ran over screaming, and pulled him out before he could drown. My dad used to be a firefighter in NYC. Once, he responded to a call at a Chinese restaurant where the owner's walkway was covered in ice. The man, who didn't speak much English, must have misunderstood what firefighters do because he asked them to salt the walkway for him. They explained that wasn't part of their job, but decided to help anyway. Afterward, everyone had a good laugh, and the owner gave them free egg rolls. My dad didn't enjoy talking about traumatic calls, so he'd always tell this funny story instead. It happened back in 1999, but it still cracks me up over 2 decades later. Years ago, I volunteered as a firefighter. One summer, during a long dry spell, 2 guys decided to go off-roading in a field with their Jeep after downing quite a few beers. The field had dry, 2-foot-tall corn stalks, which got stuck in the Jeep's undercarriage. On a scorching 90-degree day, that was enough to spark a fire. The field owner noticed the flames from their house and called the fire department and police. Since I was nearby, I rushed to the scene before gearing up. By the time I got there, the Jeep was on fire, and the 2 idiots were trying to outrun the flames by driving faster. When the engine gave out, they refused to leave the vehicle, thinking it might slow the fire somehow. I had to pull them out, burning my arms in the process because I didn't have my protective gear. Meanwhile, their brilliant plan of driving a burning vehicle through a dry field caused a significant brush fire. We had to call for help from another county to put it out. State police showed up, I ended up in the hospital, and those guys lost their Jeep and their booze stash. I'm not a firefighter, but I used to do disaster relief work. During Hurricane Floyd in eastern North Carolina, I came across a farmer with a large family who absolutely refused to evacuate. The river was overflowing, floodwaters were rising quickly, and even the police had given up trying to persuade him. I drove my truck into his yard, rolled down the window, and told him to dress his kids in bright orange or yellow. When he asked why, I said, "So it'll be easier to tell them apart from the dead pigs floating in the water when we recover the bodies." He told me to get lost, but 5 minutes later, he had his entire family packed into a vehicle and ready to leave. As a former fire and rescue firefighter, I've helped free numerous dogs and children caught in the mechanisms of recliner chairs. Oddly enough, I've also rescued a bird stuck in a tree. Go figure. I once asked a firefighter about strange rescues, and he shared a story about a man caught in a compromising situation. The man had been fooling around with a woman when her husband came home unexpectedly. Panicking, the man jumped out of a second-story window, completely naked, and landed on a fence paling, impaling his upper leg. It was one of those fleur-de-lis-style palings, and it badly tore up his leg. The firefighters had to cut the paling out of the fence before loading him into an ambulance.